Good evening, race fans, and welcome back here to the CIL, the Collegiate iRacing League, for the GT3 Challenge, the road side of the CIL, as we get set to rock and roll from Watkins, Glen, up there in the northeastern side of the United States. Joining me up in the booth, as always, Josh Crane and John Price. And John, thank you once again for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to be out here at Watkins Glen, the track that NASCAR usually races at. IMSA comes here too. Now we're here in the CIL, a nice sunny 76 degrees out there. Probably a little bit sunnier than what the actual temperature is at the moment, but track temperature of 119 degrees. So very similar conditions to what we saw 2 weeks ago at Road Atlanta. And speaking of Road Atlanta, what a race we had. Back then, it was a pretty intense race overall, with Sean Campbell again taking the victory there. 4 victories in a row for the Randolph Community College man, and they're going to be hard to beat here tonight, Josh.
Well, that is correct, and it's going to come down to the final 2 races here of the CIL Roadside League that Sean Campbell is leading that Randolph team to a fast charge, 60 points up on the second place Virginia Cavaliers in the championship, and it's going to take him quite a bit of misfortune. He has a really good margin, guys. We've seen him in each one of these races having a good margin as the leader, and now has done the same thing in point championships in the standings. And so it will be a number of finishes. The Cavaliers will have to win out most likely, and then also some misfortune for that Randolph team. But it will be tricky to overcome that for these guys. We've seen the consistency of the Randolph team. Probably, guys, especially Sean Campbell, the best driver to pair that raw speed, that lap for lap pace, with consistency. He's able to do it for 60 minutes. He's able to do it in qualifying and in race trim. And I think that's why that team is so successful. But it will take a lot of hard work and a little bit of good fortune for those second and third players in the championship standings to pick up. But we know that anything can happen, and there's still a long way to go, guys. 2-hour-long races remaining in this schedule so far.
Yeah, and if we're going to compare this track back to Road Atlanta that we ran 2 weeks ago, arguably a little bit easier track to learn, but of course every track that we go to is hard to master. You look at the track on the track map, it's only about 11 turns plus the chicane. Doesn't look all that tricky, but you get out there and there's some interesting nuances to this track. That chicane is notably quite tricky. It's very bumpy, especially if you're trying to use as many curbs as you really probably should use. And turn 6 and turn 9, also very tricky. Turn 6, you got a lot of oversteer. Car gets really loose on the entry portion as you're downhill and trying to turn in and load that front axle. And then turn 9 is a lot tighter than it looks. Guys are really struggling to get the cars to apex there. And then you really got to pile on the power, because the next corner, turn 10, is just a lift of the throttle, then straight back to full again. So maybe a little bit better racing I would expect to see here at Watkins Glen. It's a relatively easy track to follow at. It is slightly downforce dependent, but these cars not nearly as sensitive as some of the open wheel cars in the dirty air. So you can follow pretty closely behind without too much trouble whatsoever. But Josh, you mentioned Sean Campbell and Thomas Toomey up there. Christian Gomez currently sitting third in points for the FIU team. And Sean DeLandia for UCLA, and then Cohen Evans in 5th for IUPUI in the points at the moment. That Sean Campbell's got a huge point lead, over 50 points to his advantage at the moment going into this race. And with only 2 races left, like you said, it's going to be all on Thomas Toomey, I think, at this point, to bring whatever challenge remains to him as we wrap up the alumni qualifying here. First 10 minutes for qualifying are allocated for the alumni, and then the second 10 minutes for the students. So Nick Daly from UTA looks like he's going to be able to hang on to claim the pole position for the alumni. Jeremy Rogers for an A&M just very close behind there, 0.2 of a second. So 2 Texas cars on top. Derek Ekmanis in 3rd, currently in the pit, so he will not improve his lap. And then Avery Walker, the next man to cross the line. He's got a couple yellow sectors in there, so I don't expect that time to improve. He does not, a 47.9, so he does not improve on his 46-second time. And then Carl Lemkuhl in 5th, Scott Ratliff in 6th, and then Miller De Arroyo in 7th position.
Yeah, and Miller from BYU, the lone Lamborghini in the course tonight. He's had that Lamborghini hooked up, actually, at a couple other tracks, but maybe still looking for that qualifying trim. As you see that Carl Lemkuhl has decided that's the end of his stint And you see now we got a little more cars on track. These are the students, perhaps getting their spacing, John.
Yeah, getting their spacing. You do need to utilize the draft here if you're going to have a really successful qualifying. It's not easy to do. It's tricky to do in any race series, and like I mentioned earlier, where you've got open wheel cars that probably don't want to be in the draft so much for a qualifying lap. These cars you do. It will help you save a good amount of time through that long S section, turn 2, 3, and 4, and then on through to the bus stop chicane. The draft is going to help you gain probably another 3 or 4 miles an hour of top speed. Doesn't sound like much, but every little bit counts, especially here in qualifying, as we see these guys trying to warm up their tires a little bit. FIU warming up those the front end on that Porsche, as we watch the Virginia machine, Thomas Toomey, getting set to come here to the line. He's got Kyle Bonin just in front of him. I think that Porsche is a pretty good car to draft off of, and the McLaren is notably pretty quick in the straight line. So I think we're going to go on board here with Thomas Toomey as he starts his flying lap here. So we're coming through turn 10, turn 11 up here. He's going to try to carry as much speed as he can to start this flying lap. The only risk, Josh, with having guys in front of you during qualifying is if they make a mistake and that costs you a lap, then you've got only a set amount of time to try to finish this lap up. As we break it, that 200 board, get it down to third gear and get it turned in there, meets up with that apex quite nicely. You can use a lot of exit curb there, although he may have picked up an off track there. He just clipped the grass there on the outside, and it's pretty aggressive with that off track there. As we swing through the S's flat out, no problem whatsoever. Fifth gear and then sixth gear, a lot shorter gearing in the McLaren, so they can get up to speed pretty quickly. We're looking for those braking markers on the left-hand side. Look for that 300 board just after it braking down to third gear through the bus stop. Use those bumps on the inside and the outside. Pretty clean from Thomas Toomey on that section right there. Trying to keep it tucked in tight here for the long turn 5, and then you get a lot of camber. Doesn't quite use all of that exit curve there, and then turn 6. Got to watch out for the oversteer there on entry. Looks to be pretty calm so far in the McLaren, and then doesn't quite make it all the way out there. He's saving a little bit on this lap, I think, Josh. Then down to turn 7, hard brakes, get it turned in, off the brakes early, get it to meet up with that apex nice and late. Perfect line there from Virginia. Use a little bit of that exit runoff space. And then down to turn 8, one of the trickier corners. It's going to be a little bit earlier braking zone than some of the guys are used to, so break about that 200 board, get it turned in. Second gear corner, this one, then lay that power down on nice and smooth. Try not to pick up that wheel spin, get in the traction control. Then again, early brakes for turn 9. He turns it in nice and early, does manage to meet up with the apex. He's still got Kyle Bonin just in front of him, helping to tow him through this section as well. And then just a lift for turn 10, get it turned in right at that 100 board, back on the throttle, right at the apex, run it all the way out there on that exit curve, and then swing it quickly back over the left-hand side. Small dab of brake, get it turned in for turn 11 to set his first flying lap here. We'll see what he comes through with. That looks like it's going to be a 46.082. So pretty good starting lap here, but I expect to see some times here in the 45, guys. I know Sean Campbell's got a 45 in him. Nick Daly ran a 45.8 in practice, wasn't quite able to match it in qualifying, but we'll see these times drop a little bit more.
Yeah, I'd expect these times to drop a little bit more. These guys out here getting their first laps in. They have what I call the safe laps in, and now they're really going to go for it and try and get that top spot. But yeah, you're right, John, for the time being. That was a pretty good lap to follow. Thomas Toomey there putting his Virginia McLaren at the top of the charts for now. Looks like you're going to follow right now. I believe that is Sean Campbell. We talked about that Randolph machine this week in the AMG Mercedes. He'll start up a lap right here using all of that track there. And John, one thing I'll note about this Watkins Glen track, right there, those tires do jump out at you out of the final corner. That's something you got to watch for and make sure that as you get in the gas, you're not doing so too early. But it's one of the most popular tracks that we go to. It's one of the most popular tracks on the iRacing service as well, but it is tricky, and there's no one way around it, especially down into the toe with the boot. We're going to see a couple different lines tonight, and even lines changing per driver as fuel burns off and as tires wear down. We're going to see late entries and some early entries. I was surprised how early Toomey got into the corner, but with fresh tires and qualifying fuel, it seemed to work for him. So, John, I'm excited to call the race with you guys and Jared, and I'm also going to take a little bit of notes, I think.
Yeah, I think plenty of notes to take here. And on that note about, multiple lines, like you just mentioned, that's one of the things that generates great racing at these tracks, where you can get, the Porsche that's pretty good on corner entry and can lay the power down on corner exit, but might be lacking a little bit of top speed. he doesn't have to rely on that quite so much here tonight because of those multiple line entry options to some of these corners. So I'm expecting to see some fairly aggressive moves. I'm expecting to see a lot of lap one, hopefully not what I would call carnage, but maybe just some aggressive moves there and some nice overtakes, similar to what the F1 fans experienced at Coda on lap one just this past weekend. We can hope for some similar stuff here, and if anything, a lot closer racing as we see the FIU team try to get rolling here. 65, Christian Gomez getting wound up there, and then Sean Campbell coming through to set his first lap. Didn't have any draft off of any car in front of him, so this is just going to be his pure pace. We'll see what he can do. Does he make it down into the 45s? And he does. A 45.5 second lap. Absolutely monster lap from Sean Campbell. He's going to go get a fresh set of tires, put another gallon and a half of fuel in the car, and try to best that once more, I think, Josh.
Yeah, difficult lap to best, as you see UCLA there on your screen in that Porsche, and always a good looking machine. And sometimes it's a Porsche, sometimes it's a McLaren from UCLA. But the Bruins always bring in the best with their paint, their presentation. Yeah, exactly. Sean Vallandia, we've seen his pace this year really coming to life since we've involved all 8 now GT3 cars on the iRacing service. That UCLA team led by Vallandia has been quite strong and quite versatile. Different cars, different tracks, and guys, I think he's just shown his place here among the great collegiate drivers and students who are trying to go put their school in victory lane.
Yeah, Jarrett, you and I watched the gold nose of that Porsche UCLA machine right in the mirrors of Christian Gomez for what felt like the entire race at Road Atlanta. Do you think we're going to see more of that here tonight, or what's your take on how this is all going to play out?
Yeah, I definitely do. And you mentioned the draft a little bit ago, and there's a lot of places where you can get the draft. There's that long front straightaway. We'll see that long straightaway after the S's. So plenty of drafting opportunities, and I think Sean Vallandia kind of going to be one of those drivers who's going to be patient tonight. He's going to wait, force the driver in front of him to make a mistake, and then as soon as that mistake happens, capitalize on it. And I think you'll see that from a bunch of the top guys tonight. As Watkins is on kind of a skinnier track than a couple that we've been to this season, so you got to be smart. You got to pick your battles, and I think these guys at the top really know how to do it. Josh?
Yeah, I would have to agree so, and I'm going to look at actually a couple guys, Cohen Evans, as we get closer to the green flag and we think about what we're going to see at the end of this one. I think IUPUI and Cohen Evans are going to put together a strong case this race. We know that Cohen is consistent, and we know that he's got the pace, and I think that's what it's going to take here. You guys mentioned this is a track that a lot of drivers are familiar with, and that's going to lead to, in my hypothesis, some risk that these drivers take on, and not everybody, I don't think, is going to survive. So the driver that I'm really trying to watch tonight is this IUPUI machine, seeing just how far along that Jaguar makes it up the field.
Yeah, I mean, we've called him the silent assassin before, and we call him that for a reason. He's just so smooth in all of these races, doesn't make any unnecessary movements. He knows when the move is on. He knows when it's off. He can defend pretty well, and he's just a really consistent driver, and that's really what it takes to continue to rack up the points. I think we mentioned earlier that he's 5th in the points right now, and I don't think he's had a podium yet this season, but despite that, to be up there 5th in the points when you've got guys like Gomez just in front of you, that's a pretty helpful thing as far as talent and skill sets to have as he gets hooked up there through turn 9 and on to turn 10. About 30 seconds left here in qualifying, guys. Sean Campbell still sitting up there at the top of the leaderboard, 0.5 of a second, a full half second faster than the Virginia man, Thomas Toomey. That's a tall order to try to best that lap. And again, that was without any draft on the front of that Mercedes that Sean was driving. And I think Sean's one of the other guys in the field that's trying to change up his car choice each race. And we also mentioned that, Sean Campbell does a great job for all these other drivers in terms of providing setups to everybody. He loves all the GT3 cars and drives all of them pretty consistently, and he's been really helpful with a lot of the guys in building the setups for him each week, and so they have a great place to start from, because of course this is an open series, so drivers can tune these cars to however they like. They can change damper settings, wing angles, spring rates, and the rest of it as well, and Sean Campbell gives these guys a great baseline every time. But as he crosses this finish line, I think that's going to be his last lap there. I think he actually picked up an off track on the exit of 10. And Clemson here going to try to set one last lap, a little bit slow there out of turn 10. I think he knows this is not going to be his lap, but looks like once again, guys, we've got another pole position going to that Randolph team.
Yeah, and he'll be able to set the pace on this rolling start that these guys do. I did see that Thomas Tooby was able to knock that interval down just a few hundredths, but still, guys, looking about a half second back, and then the field gets very tight, separated by less than a tenth position to position. But yeah, I think the story, and I, John, I don't want to get ahead of us, but it could be a trend that we see that strong pace from that Randolph machine for the 5th week in a row.
Yeah, and one other thing I'll mention here, Jarrett, you mentioned it when you said this track's a little bit narrower than some of the other ones we've been to, and not only is that true, but you also note the walls, the Armco barriers that line throughout this track. So if you do make a mistake and put 2 tires off in the grass and even have just a half spin, that can be really costly because it's pretty likely you'll find yourself ending up in one of those walls around the racetrack. And I can tell you from experience, that's not an ideal situation. Doesn't matter how hard you hit it, you never want to find yourself in a wall. But it looks like these guys are starting to wrap up their qualifying. Looks like most people are pulling off the track. Just a couple guys left to set a time. You'll note in the bottom of your screen there, you've got Andrew Williams and Sean Campbell's live timing going on down there. Yellow sector is going to indicate that they did not improve their sector times from a previous lap. So the 4th sector for Andrew Williams was an improvement, but the overall lap, not an improvement, as we see Sean Campbell in the background there pull off. And that should be the last lap here in qualifying. So we'll get your grid up there in just a moment and read through those.
So qualifying just wrapping on up here at Watkins Glen, and we'll get set to bring you the race here in a moment. It's 1 hour of timed race. So at the 1 hour mark, we'll receive the white flag. The leader will receive the white flag, and then it'll be 1 lap dash to the finish at that point. So as we start thinking about lap 1, our quick little takes here from the booth. Josh, we'll start with you. Is there any particular turn or area of the track we're going to pay attention to in this first lap?
Yes, sir. Every time without fail, and I bet you guys were waiting to say this one, the bus stop. It's where we always see, difficulty, especially at race start, as everybody tries to get through there. And then, in the end, you're coming to the end of a long straight and nobody wants to back out of a side-by-side battle. Yeah, we're going to see some action at the bus stop tonight.
Yeah, I got to agree with that. But for now, here are your qualifying results. Sean Campbell setting that absolutely blistering pace once more here for Randolph Community College, a 1:45.5 second lap. Thomas Toomey is going to be starting on his outside. Nick Daly for UT Arlington, the leading alumni in the field here tonight, is going to roll off 3rd. Parker Eaton for NC State makes a return to the CIL, is going to roll off 4th. Alexander Klink for WPI University, a former champion of the CIL, is going to roll off 5th. And then Jeremy Rogers, second alumni in the field, is going to roll off 6th. Cohen Evans in 7th for IUPUI. Kyle Bonin from Clemson University. Plenty of Clemson drivers in there tonight. We're going to see a lot of them throughout the night. He's going to roll off 8th, 9/10 of a second off of Sean Campbell's time. Derek Ekmanis, the 3rd alumni in the field for San Diego State, is going to roll off 9th. And then Christian Gomez in that number 65 machine for FIU is going to roll off 10th.
Starting in 11th spot here tonight is Justin Roberts, another Clemson University driver. And Luis Diaz from FIU will roll off 12th, right behind his teammate Christian Gomez. So maybe pay attention to them on that back straightaway, see if they make teamwork work heading toward that bus stop. Sean Valendia in the 51 for UCLA in that beautiful livery will roll off 13th here tonight. And Avery Walker from Virginia starts in 14th. Carl Lemkool, he's got one of our onboard cameras here tonight. He'll be in 15th. You'll see his full motion rig here at some point during the race. And Evan Puckett from Ball State University, good starting spot for him. He'll roll off 16th. Austin DeLong from the Penn College of Technology in the number 22 machine starts in 17th. And Matthew Nordberg from NC State, a little disappointing lap for him. He'll start in 18th. Thomas Crump, another Clemson University driver, rolls off 19th here tonight. Nicholas Patinella from Robert Morris University will start the race in 20th.
Southern New Hampshire University will be there with Nathaniel Wiley supporting that group. 22 is going to be Esteban Munoz from Florida International University. We're going to see that school in a lot of places tonight. Embry-Riddle's Alex Jensen brings up the 23rd position, followed by Nicholas Stockner from Clemson University, Clemson Tigers. And number 20, after Stockner, Hagen Johnson from Clemson University. That's going to be your 25th position. And then Clemson again, Andrew Burrell. So guys, talking about teamwork, we're going to see a little bit of it tonight, at least in these areas. And then you have Scott Ratliff, Pittsburgh State, the Gorillas. That's the 27th position on your grid this evening. Valparaiso University new esports team, Ricky Paz, bringing those guys with their position 28th start, followed by BYU, Miller De Arroyo, and Clemson University's Andrew Williams bringing up. And then without a qualifying lap, St. Clair College, number 77, all the way from Ontario, Canada. That's going to be your 31st position, Dan Banner. And guys, we are set to go. You see the bus stop there. Everybody trying to get through under pace speed. It's even tricky. 2x2 as we all get our tires warmed up, grab our spacing. You see even I think that is Miller there opting to, I'm sorry, that was Valparaiso University opting to stay out of the bus stop, keep all the fenders on that Lamborghini.
Yeah, tough to do even on the outlap. While these guys get the tires up to temp, guys still choosing to go single file while you're trying to stay paired up with another car as you're going about probably 60 miles an hour through there. So that gives you a little bit of foreshadowing for what we're going to expect here in the race. Maybe some late moves up the inside will force some guys onto the grass. So be sure to pay attention to that. And Jarrett, you asked Josh what he's watching for, and he said the bus stop chicane, and I got to agree with that. But I'm also going to highlight turn one. Plenty of wide entrance space there and a lot of runoff, but they can't use that runoff on lap one. There's sort of a gentleman's agreement in place to not use all the runoff there. That's more for the driver's safety than anything, because if you've got cars running wide on the outside of that curb there, they have to come back on really quickly, and you can't quite see the car in your mirrors if you're the car on the inside there. So in interest of keeping as many cars on track as long as possible tonight, everybody's agreed to not use that runoff unless absolutely necessary, just on lap one. Free reign over the remaining hour of this race.
Yeah, going to be an exciting one here as we come to the start-finish line. We'll bring you the action, follow it for a few laps. We will catch you up on replays. No stress there, but we're going to stay live action for 2 to 3 laps as these guys run through. It's going to be really, really tight, guys, up through the S's, down into turn one. Jarrett, bring us the finish line, start line.
So Sean Campbell going to lead the field off that final corner. That pace car takes a turn, and Thomas Toomey needs a good jump here, and I think he's going to get it. From high up above Watkins Glen, green flag in the air. Great jump for Sean Campbell as the field heads toward turn number one. John?
Yeah, Sean Campbell already off to a good lead. Toomey there on his outside. Doesn't quite duck to the inside. UTA running it safe there on the inside. We've got a Clemson car, BMW off there on the inside. Big pile up here at turn one. I don't want to say that we predicted this one, but it was definitely in our notes to watch out for. It looks like several cars made it clean there through. I saw Embry Riddle's making it through as well. Looks like St. Louis made it through. Back up at the front of the field, Sean Campbell's got a great lead here as we head into the bus stop. Thomas Toomey in the draft car, single file, 5 cars back. Looks like Cohen Evans ducking out of the draft on. That might be Hagan Johnson, or Kyle Bonin actually is making a move on into the bus stop chicane. Did he make it stick? Looks like he did. BMW running slightly wide there. Another Clemson man struggling here on this outlap. I think that was Justin Roberts, as we got Kyle Bonin trying to come back at Cohen. Cohen's going to defend to the inside here on the entrance to turn 6 and gets it hooked up with the apex nicely. Great defense from the IUPUI man.
Yeah, until these tires get hot, it is defense season. You can see right there, not all the way across the track until he gets finally into the turn, trying to pick up a little bit of draft now from the McLaren of Texas A&M. You see there Embry Riddle in that AMG Mercedes, blue and white on your screen, followed by Clemson University. Looks like the Ball State machine of Evan Puckett there in front. So we're going to dive now into turn braking a little bit early for the competitors in front of you. But back to the lead now. You can see Randolph taking a lead and coming around to the end of the first lap. Guys, he's just starting to open it up, but I would not count that McLaren out either.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that either. And he knows what he has to do. Thomas Toomey has to save tires and he has to save fuel. And he has to do that all while staying in touch with Sean Campbell. And this is a track that'll lend itself to it. We talked about the draft already, and that'll help Thomas to save as much fuel as he can. It will wear the front tires a little bit faster than what Sean's going to experience, because Sean's got clean air coming over the nose of that car. Doesn't have to scrub the front tires as much as we see. Matthew Norberg, I think, ducking out of line there, is going to tuck back in as we approach turn 1. Couple other double car battles a little bit further back. Looks like Sean Valandia has lost a few positions on this outlap, dropped from 20th all the way back to, started 13th, has dropped back to 20th. St. Clair College having some action on the inside. FIU number 28. That's going to be, I believe, Luis Diaz making his way through there in the S's. I think that means that St. Clair probably had a bad exit there on the exit of turn 2, but that means that he's got Sean Valandia once more, Jarrett, with that gold nose on the front of that Porsche to worry about.
Yeah, you talked about it. What's he going to do? And right now, Sean Valenti has got to battle back. And it's a long race, an hour long, so you have plenty of time to do it. But the trick is going to be, you mentioned it, saving those tires. It's a little hot out on the track right now, so save the rubber, make it last all race long. We don't expect to see tire changes. We will see a pit stop for fuel at some point, probably between 30 and 40 minutes here tonight. Josh?
Yeah, we will, and I'm watching these Clemson cars. Speaking of saving your equipment, lap 2 is probably not the time to be racing, but the team orders did not get down to this Ferrari and this AMG. They're going for it. But going down now into the tighter corner, this is where you can miss your braking point. Looks like both drivers will make it through at that point. But yeah, the two Tigers going at it and trying to figure out who's going to lead these laps around. But yeah, guys, this is the time, I think, for following your teammate, saving fuel, and using more brains. You can see here we've got a solid set of cars under a blanket. It looks like Thomas Toomey maybe trying to break the draft a little bit. Not sure if this is Parker Eaton we're on board with now. Parker Eaton, NC State University. He will dive into the corner, take a little bit of a high line through turn 1. But guys, he's got it, and that is P2, Parker Eaton and North Carolina State University. The Wolfpack trying to hunt down the leader. Let's see if they have any luck.
Yeah, I do not count Toomey out of this battle just yet. He's going to get a great draft off that Porsche's rear wing heading into the bus stop. We'll see if that McLaren can close it up. Parker Eaton knows that he's at risk from that, so he's going to defend to the inside, try to break that draft, give Thomas no option but to go to the outside. He's able to hang on to that position. That was not in my notes for this race, guys. I expected Thomas Toomey to be pretty quick here tonight, but under fire early from NC State. And meanwhile, Sean Campbell is watching this all unfold in his mirrors and probably smiling a huge grin underneath the virtual helmet there in that AMG Mercedes as he stretches his lead out to a 2.3 second lead, emulating some pretty strong performances there. We've got UTA with A&M just behind now. So UTA, I believe, has lost a position there to Alex Clank, a position on track, not a position for points, because of course the alumni and the students competing for separate points championships here tonight. Cohen Evans trying to get in front of Jeremy Rogers. He's also got to clear Nick Daly if he wants to get into the top 5 of the student category. But I'm going to look forward to this battle here. The two Texas cars, A&M and UTA, going to battle it out a little bit more here tonight, Josh.
Yeah, and it is going to be, we know that we've seen these drivers with talent to spare and respectful driving. So if these two can keep together for a number of laps, it will be exciting to watch. I did see that Toomey didn't put too much of an effort. Obviously defended, went down low, but gave the position. And I wonder, guys, we've seen that fuel mileage is how Randolph keeps winning these races. And I wonder if Thomas Toomey has decided he's going to pick up a little bit of a draft and fuel save if he can, with the assumption that North Carolina State will be quick enough. Also, we have seen Parker Eaton specifically for that Wolfpack team sometimes takes a scenic route. So that will be something that Toomey and the Virginia Cavaliers are also thinking about and are going to figure into their race. Guys, we said with this Clemson cars, lap 2, now lap 4, probably a little bit early to hard defend. You can see there the draft, but I think that's just staying in the draft as we get a great shot here. You can see these cars diving in, eating up that white curbing right on the inside and just bouncing. That is the fast way to get around that bus stop. Take as much curb as you can while keeping the car pointed straight. That's the trick.
Yeah, Nick Daly's come a long way in the CIL since he started racing here, I think 2 seasons ago with the GTE cars, finding these GT3 cars a lot better for his driving style. And liking this BMW so far, still being able to keep Jeremy Rogers at bay. Jeremy Rogers, we know, is a pretty clean driver, had a tough time out at Road Atlanta 2 weeks ago, had I think just a couple of spins and maybe a half spin as well, and but had enough of a lead to still come home with the win in the alumni category. But it looks like Nick Daly's going to try to put that one to an end, as IUPUI also trying to follow these guys through here. So back to NC State and Virginia battle up at the front. Toomey still tucked right underneath the wing of Parker Eaton. Josh, you just mentioned Parker Eaton sometimes liking to take that scenic route. And I'm thinking back to maybe, I don't know, 6 or 9 months ago when Parker Eaton was all over the place at Long Beach, had tons of pace in that GTE Porsche at the time, but just couldn't put it together over the course of a race. But he has cleaned up that significantly. And I don't want to say I put the commentator's curse on him there, but touches the wall there on the exit of turn 11, getting a little bit loose there, picked up the throttle a little bit too early, but still going to be able to hang on to the position from Virginia, but doesn't want too many more of those, Josh. That will rack up throughout the night and really hurt his straight line speed more than anything else.
Yeah, it will. And, we talked about it's so easy that final corner to see the start finish line roll into the throttle just a little bit early. And that is the result. It's just a touch right there. And he actually did get those tires just enough to
Ooh.
keep him in the grass. So now we're going to run through. And, guys, Alexander Klenk is going to enter this battle just a little bit, almost side by side. But Toomey will back out. It's going to be Wolfpack, Cavaliers, and Worcester Polytechnic Institute trying to get this, as you see now, putting that Porsche machine on the outside. Can they get it done? And maybe the McLaren, John, was not the tool for the job in this instance.
Yeah, so first things first, credit to Alexander Klink there, recognized the opportunity in front of him and absolutely seized it as early as he could. This would be a first podium for Alexander in quite a while, even since winning his championship. But I think what Thomas did wrong there was he tried to go for that outside move in the chicane. That is never going to work. You cannot go too wide and try to make that move stick around the outside in the chicane. If anything, the advantage is always going to fall to that inside car. So I don't know if Thomas had too many other options there, but that is ultimately what enabled Clank to seize that opportunity to move up there into the final podium position and start hunting down the NC State machine, who is now 4 seconds off the lead. Sean Campbell 5 laps in, almost a full second a lap quicker than this group that we see here. 7 or 8 cars in this train. UTA and A&M still going at it back there and keeping it clean so far. All fenders on the cars and all cars on track still. And actually, just as I say that, looks like we do have 2 early retirements in this race. The FIU man, the leading FIU car when this race started, Christian Gomez is out, and Justin Roberts for Clemson also out of this race. And I think I saw a penalty pop up on my screen a little bit earlier from race control for car number 35. I think that's going to be Ball State Evan Puckett getting a drive-through for causing that lap 1 collision. So he's going to be on the back foot after that one as these guys come through here in the S's and starting to get strung out a little bit more, Josh. I think guys are starting to find their groove and find their rhythm.
They are. So I think we're going to see that gap open up and then stabilize as Sean Campbell changes from maximum pace and race start to settling in and saving that fuel. But yeah, the story is right here, seeing all these different manufacturers, different schools, nose to tail, and trying to figure out what the best way is to negotiate. You can see Jeremy Rogers and Nick Daly for their respective schools. That's going to be A&M chasing down University of Texas at Arlington. That battle is for a position, and those guys are going to be hungry to compete. Getting in here, you can see the 2 Porsches trying to be chased down by the McLaren of Virginia. But that's going to be a balance for those guys. And right now, if I am either of those 2 drivers, in fact, either of these 2 drivers as well, I'm saving fuel. A little bit early in the race, unless I think I have a maximum pace to get around and move on, I'm definitely taking advantage of this and a blocker in front.
Yeah, I got to agree there. And some of the guys that have a little bit of an advantage from in terms of having a spotter or a crew chief, that crew chief's going to be telling them that, like, hey, you might be stuck behind this car for a number of laps. Use that opportunity to save some fuel. We've seen that strategy work every single race so far, pretty much, for Sean Campbell, with the exception of Road Atlanta. As we saw Clemson there make a mistake, Nicholas Stockner going a little bit wide on turn 8. That's going to give Sean Valandia a little bit of tiger's blood in his veins. They're trying to get tucked up underneath that Ferrari, but no opportunity yet to pass. So Clemson able to hang on to that. We've got a rear wing broken on Derek Ekmanis's Audi there. Not quite sure where he collected that wall, but that's going to be a problem for him. So we'll look and see here where it happened. Long sweeping left-hand turn. So that's going to be the second to the last corner, I believe. So I think that's Kyle Bond in there on the inside. Did he have a little help there? Did he get loose? I think he had some help from that Porsche, but it's always tough to swing it around the outside. I think Kyle Bond may have gotten a poor exit off the previous corner, and so he was slow there on the inside, and it looks like he left him the space, guys. So I don't know on Derek for that one. I think that that was clean racing from Kyle there, and Derek needed to leave a little bit more space there on the inside. Now he's got to deal with the damaged rear wing for the duration of this race until he comes into the pits and uses that fast repair.
Yeah, exactly. And I think also waiting on that fast repair is going to be the UCLA machine that we saw just a couple taps and did see, I don't think too much damage, but was involved in that lap 1. And so I bet he is waiting until he gets in his fuel window. As you can see, Clemson again, that was Stockner, I believe, taking that Ferrari sideways. And so that will be +1 position for the other machine there. But yeah, as we were saying, some of these guys are going to be waiting for that fast repair as we see a rejoin. Pittsburgh State and Pennsylvania College of Technology making their way through. And now Nick Stockner will see his teammate in his mirror, and the competition there in the blue and white Porsche out of his windshield.
Yeah, and racing is the type of sport where it rewards guys that qualify very well, because that gives them additional strategy opportunities. Meanwhile, these guys back here have to push absolutely as hard as they can to catch up with that pack, especially after being tangled up. As we see the Ferrari get loose there on the exit. Great avoidance strategy from, I think that was Nathaniel Wire. Sorry, that would have been Austin DeLong with that avoidance tactic there. So great save from the AMG driver back there. I think the Clemson man. Pit State, I was going to say, though, involved on that lap one instant, as well as most of the other cars there. So we see Clemson drive up the inside there, and he gets, I think, a little loose on his own there on exit. Maybe thought that the Porsche was coming back across and threw some right-hand lock into that car, but I don't think I saw any contact between the two of them. So unfortunate for the Clemson driver at the moment. Back up to the front, we've got Toomey under attack now from Nick Daly. Nick Daly has put a move on Alexander Clank somewhere and has gained another position, putting a car between him and the man he cares most about right now on this racetrack, that Mercedes just behind. So Clank is actually a little bit wide through turn 6, I believe. And so that's going to give, UTA the position automatically, and Clank able to fend off the McLaren of A&M down here into turn 7. So we'll see how that fans out. Kind of surprised that Clank was able to fend that position off. They may have rubbed doors a little bit there. And I think Jeremy's got a smart head on his shoulders. He knows when he can have that position, when the move's not on, just like Cohen Evans. And so he lives to see another day and fight another battle, and tucked in behind Alexander Clank. But great, again, opportunistic move from UTA. Nick Daly moving up to 4th overall at the moment, trying to chase down Thomas Toomey, whose Josh pace has dropped off a little bit there for Thomas Toomey. Not quite able to tuck up underneath Parker Eaton as I expected.
Yeah, now I think Nick Daly is looking for a way around. We might see it down into turn 1 here. And if you're Toomey, do you even defend? Certainly, the pace not quite there. Still a nice 3rd position, but guys, we talked about, if the Cavaliers are going to have a shot at this championship through the season's end, they're going to need nothing but the best. So UTA here trying to either push that car along or get around. And we talked about it's going to be down into the bus stop. Will they choose to go side by side, or will we be able to agree on positions? But actually, I say that maybe a little bit of a slowdown from NC State here. It looks like Toomey has closed the multi-car gap, and we have a 3-car train at the moment.
Yeah, that advantage is all going to be determined by that turn 1 exit. That carries you all the way through the S's and then onto the bus stop. So if you mess up that first turn, you got to deal with the consequences of that through the next 3 or 4 corners. So that can be a very costly mistake if you don't absolutely nail turn 1. But I gotta say, I love the pressure that Nick Daly's putting on Thomas Toomey right now. We've seen him do it in other races so far. He had an unfortunate off-track excursion at Road Atlanta, but was able to recover from that pretty nicely to his 2nd place finish in the alumni category. And he's putting good pressure on Thomas Toomey at the moment. Looks like we had a Ferrari or a Lamborghini off on the inside of that turn just back there, turn 6. That is going to be, is that Ricky Paz, I believe? Or no, that's Miller De Arroyo.
BYU's Miller De Arroyo, and he's now got to wait for a time. You see all these cars on your map coming through. He's got to wait for the right time to turn that Lamborghini around. And John, it's a long, long wait right there to get that thing turned around as these cars are driving by you. Yeah, and I think he will opt to tow it to pit lane, a difficult decision for any driver trying to get turned the right way.
Yeah, I think that's a situation where you need to know what the keybind is for traction control to be able to turn that off and then drop the clutch and spin the car around and do a quick 180 there. I don't think he was able to turn off traction control for that one, so the car just understeered in the wall basically on the outside as he tried to gather it back up. Love that camera shot too. These cars flying over the curb there at turn 1. You see how much undulation they have going over that curb. Those cars, you have to wait for it to settle before you get back on the power. If you try to get back on the power as you're going over that curb, you're going to pick up a lot of wheel spin. Traction control can't really do for anything for you when the wheel's up in the air. And so when that wheel lands, it's going to give you a lot of oversteer. As now, again, Thomas Toomey closing back down underneath NC State, but UTA tucked up right underneath the wing of that McLaren as they head into this long sweeping right-hander of corner 5, and not an easy place to overtake, not the ideal place to be right behind another car. I did say that these cars aren't terribly affected by dirty air coming off the car in front, but turn 5 is probably the only exception to that rule throughout this track. It's a very fast corner. You take it in 4th gear throughout. Is just under 100 miles an hour minimum cornering speed, and you need that front downforce to help that front end grip through that corner to be able to get on the gas even earlier. But Jeremy Rogers now dropping back behind IUPUI. Cohen Evans putting a move on Jeremy somewhere on that previous lap. So that gap between the top two alumni, Nick Daly and Jeremy Rogers, is expanding.
Yeah, it is, and we're going to see IUPUI moving through the corner here, and that green banner indicating not for position, but going to be able to follow that Porsche down through the turn. You can see they're coming in a little bit higher, John, maybe more of what I expected on that line, and then down just to the apex, as you mentioned, and back through. So I'll tell you what, that second to last corner, that left-hander, that is the tricky one for these guys that you want to get right. Now going here, looks like we're all going to be in a draft and get back in line before turn one, but everybody trying to figure out. And guys, I think that Parker Eaton and in the Wolfpack like their position in that second place.
Yeah, 18 minutes into this race, Josh, and I think these guys have already kind of given up on P1, it looks like, because they're battling pretty hard back there. NC State ducking out to try to break the draft to Thomas Toomey as they headed down into turn one, but that is going to be more crucial here. Thomas is going to tuck right underneath the wing of that Porsche, but no, on this occasion, he's going to elect to stay to the outside and let NC State try to defend as much as he likes to and just kind of sit there calm and cool and not show that wheel on the inside unless he absolutely has to. I think he learned from that, I think lap 2 or lap 3 outing through the chicane where he went along the outside that was not going to work a second time. And so I think he's learned from that. Thomas Toomey's a guy that learns from his mistakes and is able to capitalize the next time around when that opportunity presents itself. So I think that's what we saw just there. No need to needlessly push that front end of that McLaren and continue to wear those tires. And as NC State continues to defend hard, that's not going to help him throughout this race. As we catch back up here with Derek Ekmanis, Alex Jensen just in front of him. Then just in front of him, the third place alumni man, Carl Lemkuhl. That is the target for Derek Ekmanis. He's got to clear Alex Jensen just in front. The Embry-Riddle machine going to hold him up as he tries to attack Carl Lemkuhl, who are both alumni, Derek and Carl. Carl from St. Louis University. Embry-Riddle trying to put a move on St. Louis University, but nothing doing at the moment. Looks like Carl is able to get it hooked up there in his motion rig and defend that position.
Yeah, that would be quite a ride in the motion rig. Mirrors full of automobiles. You can see 2 Mercedes and then an Audi and then a Porsche. Pretty good mix here, as you can see these drivers trying to get through. And yeah, certainly the last 2 cars are seeing each 1 car ahead, as you see the red, green banner. So, yeah, that Audi R8 is going to try and get around that Mercedes just as much as he's going to peek to the inside. A little bit of a defense, but back to the line. Down here into turn 1, this is where we're heavy braking. We know the Mercedes is good on the brakes. Closes the door. Is going to try to get a little bit better exit and might even make it. Can he get there before the inside? No, St. Louis University will have right to that set of S's.
Yeah, I think Carl's going to have to defend from Derek here. Or sorry, Embry-Riddle's going to have to defend from Derek. Did Embry-Riddle collect that inside wall there? Because that's going to give the advantage.
Just a touch. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So that's going to give the advantage to Derek Ekmanis as they head down the back straight. Derek's got the car in front of him to give him the toe off of it. So he's going to collect that position off of Embry-Riddle. And now he is onto the back of Carl Lemkuhl as the NC State machine of Matthew Norberg and Alex Jensen try to ballad out there through the middle of the chicane. So not sure what happened to Embry-Riddle there. Pretty unusual for you to run so wide that you touch the wall there through the S's. These cars grip up pretty well, even 12 laps in with this tire. And so we can see there, yeah, he did just touch the wall there on the exit, opened up the hands a little bit too quickly and found the wall there, and that was enough to slow that car down and give Derek the advantage. NC State not able to capitalize on that, even though he had the position going into the bus stop, gave it up there in the center of it. Maybe got a little bit of oversteer off of that bump there right on the entrance. But for now, Alex Jensen is slotting back into 12th, Matthew Norberg in 13th overall. But of course, they've got 4 alumni in front of them, so subtract 4 from that, and that would be where they finish in the student category, if it were to finish like this. But of course, these positions will continue to change over these next 40 minutes. And Jarrett, 20 minutes in, we saw the alternate strategy work 2 weeks ago for Sean Campbell, where he came in super early. Do you think we're going to see the same thing here again tonight? Sean Campbell's kind of a master of the alternate strategy options, and I wouldn't put it past him.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't put it past him either. But I tell you what, as we start getting closer and closer to that pit window, guys who got to be thinking about that alternate strategy are guys like Parker Eaton and Thomas Toomey. Maybe you got a pit to force Sean Campbell into pit. We saw it in the Formula One race this Sunday. Red Bull brought Max Verstappen down early, forced Lewis Hamilton on the pit road. Maybe guys are thinking a similar strategy. Pit a little bit early, bring Sean Campbell in a little bit early, and try and make up some time somewhere in that realm. But I tell you what, 5.5 seconds is going to be a long way to make up on pit lane alone.
Yeah, that is a very long time. And in a series where you're not going to take tires at that pit stop and you are not required to take tires like you are in Formula One during a dry race, then that advantage just quite isn't as strong. So really the only advantage in the undercut lies in the fact that you probably don't have to take on quite as much fuel. But what that also relies on is your ability to save fuel in the second stint. It's easy to save fuel in the first stint and then know how much you have to put into the tank as you come into the pit for the second stint. But when you reverse that role, Jarrett, you got to make sure that you can save enough in the second stint and not run out before you cross the line. So it's a little bit tricky strategy to execute, but if anybody can do it, Sean Campbell can do it. We know that for sure. We saw him do it 2 weeks ago, and we'll see if he does it here again tonight. On board with Matthew Norberg here on the Porsche, the dash lighting up there, showing him what gears he's in, what in the shift. Goes down to second gear for turn 9, helps to get the car's nose tucked into the corner, up to 5th, just a lift here, and stays in 4th gear, picks up the throttle nice and early, doesn't quite use all the exit curb, but he's trying to keep that car under him for the time being. He knows he doesn't want to take too many risks as he collects the curb there on the entrance to turn 11, going to cost him a little bit of speed here as we come down the front straight up to 140, over 140 miles an hour into the braking zone at the 200 board, down to 3rd gear, gets it turned in nice and early. Good line from him. It looks like the Embry-Riddle machine just up in front missed the line a little bit, might be a little bit slow as a result, but he does have the draft off the Audi in front to help him carry that speed up through the S's and into the chicane. So no risk of a position loss for the Embry-Riddle man, it would seem.
No, not right now. It's going to be a little bit of patience. I think from Norberg, and yeah, you mentioned it, John, it's quite easy to grab that inside curb and be slowed down. One curb you do want to grab is all 4 of those that you see those drivers running over through the bus stop. That's going to cut tenths off of these last lap times. So certainly these guys are thinking about now how they want to set up their pit strategy and pit stops. And even if they might come in with someone and come out with a draft, or if they can try and leapfrog, do something a little bit special. But these guys certainly doing some lift and coast. You see the Texas A&M machine there, driven by Jeremy Rogers. We know that he prefers the lift and coast a little bit all over, just for the sake of driving smoothly, being patient, and being consistent. So these guys will be saving some fuel. And the question is, man, how do you save it when you just want to get to that driver that's a couple feet in front of you?
Yeah, absolutely. And Jeremy Rogers, just in that past lap, was able to make his way around Cohen Evans. I'd suspected the lap before that Cohen Evans was holding up Jeremy just a little bit. Looked like Jeremy early on was able to hold pace with Nick Daly, but then Cohen Evans was able to slot around the outside of that McLaren a little bit ago. But Jeremy back in front of IUPUI for the time being. We'll keep an eye on that 3-second gap to the car in front, and that is the car of desire for Jeremy Rogers. Nick Daly, the man that he has to overtake to claim a win for the alumni. But that 3-second gap, we'll keep an eye on that and see if that goes anywhere. And we also need to keep an eye between Jeremy Rogers and Cohen Evans to indeed confirm if my suspicions were correct that Jeremy was slightly being held up by Cohen Evans. But Cohen's not going to wear his tires too much, so he's going to have some more opportunity here at the end of this race. So this might have been out of the S's into the chicane. Jeremy on the inside, and Cohen backs out early, tries to do the over-under, but it's really tough to do in that chicane. Can't quite get it done. So A&M plus 1 position up to 6th overall and 2nd in the alumni. And now Cohen Evans has Kyle Bonin for company, the Clemson driver in the Porsche, trying to put a move on Cohen Evans if he can. Kyle's been driving pretty well this season, Josh, I would say, and it's he's about due for a pretty strong finish here. I know he would love to have a top 5 if he could get it.
Yeah, certainly. Bonin always represents that Clemson team very well. And started off in the BMW, now into the Porsche, and has been closing, and I would expect would try and find a way around that IUPUI car ahead. Looking now, you can see actually 2 FIU machines, nose to tail there. So that's going to be your 9 machine of Esteban Munoz and the 28 machine of Luis Diaz, both down there at Florida International University. So they will be working, and John probably working on a similar pit strategy, trying to compare notes there as they go to work on Embry-Riddle. And then a little bit up the road, they'll find NC State, but not quite yet. And yeah, making sure that they can work. You see your 4 students there in your frame. It's going to be a little bit of mid-race teamwork from those 2 cars, but always good to see teamwork. We know that Director of Motorsports there, Christian Gomez, taking an early exit to this one. But John, I'd say quite well represented by these two drivers right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And with Christian Gomez out of this race early, then I would expect him to be on the radio with these two drivers and calling the shots a little bit from the top. As we'll see if Kyle Bonin tries to make a move here in the chicane, going to duck out underneath the wing of the Porsche in front. IUPUI able to hang on to it, sweep around the inside, carry that speed into the chicane, and maintain that position. Kyle just barely touching the grass there on the exit. You can get away with a little bit of grass there, but don't want to take too much. If you cut that chicane a lot, there's an access road. And if you touch that access road, the front end of that car will jump up in the air about 4.5 feet and then land pretty harshly. But these guys probably not quite at risk of that, as Cohen pushing pretty hard there, running a little bit wide on the exit of turn 6 into turn 7. So, that gap between Bonin and Thomas Crump just behind has been steadily expanding. Thomas Crump now 8 seconds behind. So these top 8 guys have got a pretty good cushion behind them. So they don't have to worry too much about who is behind. But I will say this, when we were watching that FIU battle just a moment ago, or I won't say battle, maybe the teamwork's probably a better word for that. I think I saw a little bit of a tweaked wing on the number 9 of Esteban Munoz. So he's got some damage to work with on that car. Maybe not be a bad idea to think about swapping the positions between the 9 and the 28 cars, because the 28's got a clean rear wing on that car. He's going to be able to carry a little bit more speed through the corners. And Esteban, it's going to be on the back foot now with that damaged rear wing. But we'll see what the shot caller says for that FIU team. And they choose to just let them race the Red Bull strategy or choose to swap it around the Mercedes strategy. But we'll keep an eye on that. So sector times there on your screen. Kyle Bonin quicker in sector 1 and sector 5, but slower through the mid sectors. So what that tells me, he's probably running a little bit less rear wing on that car. So he's got the high speed, so sector 1 and sector 5, but through those twisty bits, Josh, he's struggling a little bit for rear end grip.
Yeah, and you said that a lot of these corners are rear end grip. Really, really no corners that are too slow here. Even that turn 1, even that final turn, your third gear through there, maybe the top of second, but and especially right here, your top of fourth coming out, jumping onto that curb right there. Watkins Glen requiring either a lot of downforce or a lot of finesse from these drivers to really put a lap together here. But John, looks like that picture is not changing too much between your position 2 to position 4 drivers, and then 5 and 6. But joining back now, you see Matthew Nordberg getting chased down by that's Embry Riddle and Alex Jensen. So before it was the 45 machine here, back a little bit, but he has now left the FIU cars. In fact, I see just one FIU car on my screen. That's going to be the 28 of Luis Diaz. And now Embry Riddle and Alex Jensen trying to take on that Wolfpack machine. That's going to be Matthew Nordberg.
Yeah, so something happened to Esteban Munoz then. I hate to do it twice in the same race, but I hope I didn't put the commentator's curse on Munoz there and cause him an issue. So this is coming down the main straight just a moment ago. The number 9 machine's the one we're keeping an eye on here. So deep on the brakes into turn 1. Looks like he's pretty loose there and just overcorrected it and spun out, but luckily no contact with the wall, able to rejoin safely. And they did have that 8-second cushion behind that group. So we'll see if he can close that gap back up to the cars in front. Or sorry, no, I was thinking of the top 8 cars. These guys are running in 13th and 14th at the moment, but Esteban does have a 12-second gap behind him. So no risk for that. So he's just got to focus on closing back up to Luis Diaz. As we catch back up with what's going on up at the front of the pack, Sean Campbell already starting to lap some traffic here. That number 30 machine, tons of pace in this race. We'll check and see what sort of lap times he has been running so far. His fast lap of 46.6, and I would bet pretty consistently that is going to be the fast lap of the race so far, and pretty consistent into the 47-second laps. And compare that back to Parker Eaton, who has also pretty consistent at 47s, but high 47s. And so we know Sean Campbell's probably got a little bit more pace in him, but similar to what Max Verstappen was doing a couple weeks ago, as we see, I think that's Ricky Paz for Valtteri. No, that'd be Miller de Arroyo letting the Sean Campbell by there on the inside. So he's going to get blue flags up there in his iRacing top left-hand side of the screen and let that car through. So blue flags in effect here tonight. So lap traffic, not as much of an issue. They do not have to make the move. It's not an endurance race, so it is just pure position. So Sean Campbell making his way through the lap traffic. We'll see how far he gets. Sometimes it's fun to bet, Josh, just how many cars he can lap in a race.
Yeah, we'll bet on that, and also how many laps he goes without going to pit road. If he is on indeed the low fuel strategy, he'll try and stretch that first run as far as he can, as he does his most recent lap of the race, a 1:47.8. But he's going to try and stretch that out, and then come down for the minimum amount down pit road. So we've seen that gap down to 6 seconds, now about 5.5. So John, what he's doing is just managing that gap. He can turn it on a little bit more if needed to, but no need right now, I think, as Parker Eaton has more or less stabilized. And so he's going to make sure that he is saving the maximum amount of fuel, driving that car with momentum, being really smooth, taking the proper line through there. And it's going to be a simple exercise here for Sean Campbell as he tries to close this one out as we just cross halfway, according to the timer in your upper left-hand part of your screen.
Yeah, and Josh, breaking news here. Thomas Toomey going for the alternate strategy just came down through pit road, I believe, and this is him exiting pit road. So he's trying to throw the Sean Campbell move on here and see what it can do for him. He's got lap traffic just in front of him to help him tow that McLaren down this back straight into the bus stop chicane, and he should get that position. So the Lamborghini is going to pull off there to the inside and let the McLaren take the spots. I know he's got to chase down Esteban Munoz, but I like the call for Virginia. You know, it's not working for you at the moment, so this current strategy, probably not the optimum one. Let's go for something different and take some risks here. We know that we've got pace, and let's get some clean air on the front of that car and just start to churn out those qualifying style laps and get closed back up to this pack. So we'll keep an eye on Thomas Toomey and see what happens to him after the pit stop phases wear out. But first car to come down pit road is going to be Thomas Toomey. And so we'll see where that filters out a little bit further on in the race. But meanwhile, I have not seen this gap change between Cohen Evans and the A&M machine just up in front. So Jeremy was not being held up by Cohen Evans. The gap between him and Nick Daly just up the road has actually extended by a second and a half since we last saw it. So it was 3 seconds, now 4.5 seconds from UTA back to A&M. So Cohen Evans looks to be fairly content at the moment, sitting there behind the A&M wing. But Josh, I swear every time I say that, I see him go for a move.
Yeah, I think so. Just trying to pull out, maybe see a little better view of the track down the road. But tell you what, if you're Cohen Evans, you might be a little bit concerned about that Clemson car behind. But I think that these guys are hanging out and saving fuel, maybe thanking Jeremy Rogers for that just a little bit until they get to come down pit road and put a little bit more fuel in their cars. But yeah, if I'm second or third in this train, I don't have my foot all the way down for a good part of the lap.
Yeah, absolutely not. And speaking of that same strategy, you know, it's just popped into my mind up in front, Nick Daly. He's going to be able to do the same. He doesn't have to push that throttle all the way down. He can save into the braking zones behind the wing of Alexander Klank's Porsche just up in front of him. And he's been holding that gap up in front pretty well, because I think these guys are going to catch lap traffic just in front of them. So we'll see if that plays a role in this three-way battle at the moment. But yeah, Nick Daly, we'll see how long he spends on pit lane, how much fuel he has to put into his BMW tonight, and if that can get him an advantage. Jeremy Rogers not going to be so lucky at the moment with clean air on the front end of that McLaren, not going to help him to save fuel at all. And he's got to push to keep Cohen Evans behind as well. So UTA running really strong at the moment, a great run for him. I think that would be second podium of the season and first win for Nick Daly in that UTA machine with that red alumni banner on that windshield. The Texas flag up there on the top as he runs wide on the exit of turn 10, but keeps those hands open and doesn't spin that car around. That's a big risk, and he's going to take this early opportunity to come into the pits. I like it. He knew he was not going to be good on that lap, so he takes the early opportunity to come to the pit lane. Hopefully he's got his fuel calculations sorted out, and he can join pit state there on the pit lane and get some fresh fuel in that car. So second car down pit lane. The first one is man on your screen, the Cavaliers from Virginia, Thomas Toomey, currently in 13th, but of course that is not his net position, as he's got the fuel to run to the end, guys.
The fuel to run to the end. He's got that McLaren wheel you see on your screen for that McLaren car you see, and he's going to try and make it through for that Virginia team. And looks actually a little bit low. Clemson trying to figure out just what to do with that 9 machine of FIU. But on your screen, Thomas Toomey is going to dive down into the lane and just telling the guys ahead, hey, I'm coming through and I am on a mission. So he's going to have to communicate with that traffic. Yeah, John, that's a good point that as he chooses that alternate strategy, sometimes he's going to have clean air, sometimes he will not. So having to negotiate, work around, and we've seen a lot of fair play from all the competitors here, but a chore nonetheless to get through and get on down the road.
Yeah, you know, one thing I love about watching guys race in VR is we see Nathaniel Wiley on your screen there from Southern New Hampshire University trying to race hard there tonight and pick up some spots for that McLaren. One thing about guys racing in VR, you can watch their head movements too. You can see how they're looking through the corner, keeping their eyes up and their vision ahead, which is absolutely crucial. You know, in most cases, an amateur driver is going to look at where the car is and not exactly where he wants to go. But these guys are looking where they want that car to end up. And that is really half the battle. We always talk about that, especially in autocross. I know you know this, Josh. You got to keep your eyes up. You don't want to be looking at the next cone. You want to be looking at 3 or 4 cones ahead, about 2 seconds ahead in the lap, and the car will naturally end up there. So love to watch how that actually works its way out there in VRs. Thomas Toomey slow there on the inside. I hope that's not a problem for him. He's getting back up to speed now. Doesn't look like he hit the wall there. So this is on the outside of turn 5. And break in for turn 6. Did he get a little bit loose there on the entry, or what happened there? Yep, loose on the entry in my track notes, as I stated. Collects the rear bumper into the wall there. So tragedy strikes for Virginia. Not great to see there, Josh. Didn't expect it from Thomas.
No, and that's going to be, it was a quick turnaround and recovery, but that's going to be another 3 to 5 seconds behind, so he's going to have to work on that. Now we see these two have come to pit road, the two Porsches together, and FIU joins. Looks like a little bit of leapfrog. Clemson taking on just a touch less fuel. Both FIU cars on pit road now, but the news is, and it looks like Toomey's slow again. Maybe trying to keep that focus as he comes through. We talked about this turn right here. He'll go and break deep for this next hairpin, John.
Yeah, we'll take a look and see what happens there. He's pretty narrow there on the entry. Has he just totally lost the rear end on this McLaren? I hate to say it, but it looks like the rear tires are done on that car. So tragedy again in the same lap for Virginia. Very uncharacteristic of this driver. And so he's going to take that opportunity to come down to pit lane, use that fast repair because he knows he's got damage after contacting the wall previously. So definitely the right call, but this is going to hurt his race pace a lot. That last lap at 2:32. Not a great race pace lap there for the Virginia man. So meanwhile, back up at the front of the field, Sean Campbell, we know he's got more pace in the car than what he's letting on right now. So he's definitely saving fuel, and he's continuing to pick up the draft off of the lap traffic in front. So NC State 5 seconds back from him. Alexander Clank comes into the pit lane, so he's going to go a lap shorter than Parker Eaton at the minimum. We'll check and see where Parker Eaton comes in, if it's the next lap or a few laps after that. And Texas A&M still running well. I think Nick Daly came down the pit lane. Yeah, we saw that just a moment ago, so we'll have to keep an eye on where he feeds out relative to Jeremy Rogers. But yeah, I'm very surprised actually that Thomas had those issues. He's not known for that. We've seen him race really clean pretty much all season long, going back to the previous seasons as well. Really clean driver, and he was running great pace in the race up to that point. So a couple uncharacteristic mistakes for it. But looking at my track notes, Josh, I've got T6, and in huge quotes there, I've got oversteer on entry, which was his first mistake there. And when you get that oversteer, you've only got a couple options there. You can either slam on the brakes, which will load that front left tire, or front right tire in this case, and try to transfer some of that load a little bit different direction and stop that oversteer moment, or you can try to save it. And I don't think he had just enough steering lock there to save it. So unfortunate moment for the Virginia machine. I hope he can recover from it, but that's going to be a tall order from him. So now it's a Kyle Bonin, got Cohen Evans behind him now. So Kyle putting the move on the IUPUI man a bit earlier in the lap, now up to 5th overall. Great result for Clemson. That would be one of the better results this season, and that would be 4th in the student category. So if anything happens to these cars in front, Clemson could be on for a first podium of the season here, guys.
Yeah, it could absolutely be, and that would be a great showing for Kyle Bond, and he has earned it along with those Clemson Tigers. And John, you mentioned, Thomas Toomey. That's going to be something that we remember from tonight, but I'm thinking about a couple things. We know he's familiar with the car. You mentioned, not his normal behavior, and still in pit lane, and I have to wonder if he's had a failure either in his wheel or in his VR headset. We know he's got a lot of new hardware there, new rig. And so I do wonder almost if he's had something that's kept him out, because he looked like he was going kind of slow, and then the car really, really came around, especially kind of quickly in that turn 6 area where you had your notes set up. So, going to have to dig into that one. And could have been some type of equipment failure for the Cavaliers there as well. But led on by Avery Walker in the Audi R8 Virginia lives on. And then we follow here UCLA trying to get ahead of Luis Diaz from FIU.
So a different FIU car in front of the UCLA one this week. We formerly saw him underneath the wing of Christian Gomez 2 weeks ago at Road Atlanta. And so that backward shot from that car, seeing the gold nose of that Porsche. Love the livery on that UCLA machine. Plenty of fantastic liveries in here tonight, but I gotta love the chrome gold on the front of that UCL machine. And we'll see. He's got a lot of pace in that Porsche. He's driven well so far this season. He's tucking up right underneath the bumper, putting a lot of pressure on Luis Diaz. Luis does not have any help from his teammate this time around. Esteban Munoz is 12 seconds behind this pair, and with Sean Valandia tucked right up underneath his bumper, I expect to see him move here into the chicane. He is perfectly positioned for it, and so Luis is going to need to stay to the inside here, and he does. And I'll squeeze him back over to the wall, give him no option here, and see if he can get up alongside before they get to the braking zone. Is it going to be a late braking move from Sean? He will tuck back underneath. Wise move from Sean Valandia. I think that's really the best option he had at the time, as we see Sean Campbell come down into pit lane 43 minutes into this race, guys. We'll see how long this takes him.
Yeah, how long? But he's got about 40 seconds to service that machine, and he is already most of the way down pit road. So I'm afraid that AMG Mercedes is going to take enough fuel, but not that much fuel. So Parker Eaton, you see the gap there. Once the Randolph machine starts moving, you'll see that gap close way down. In fact, you can see Sean Campbell at pit exit already. So yeah, that gap will drop down maybe to 20 seconds or so, but that's going to be a firm gap. You see there, yeah, six seconds or so for Sean Campbell there as it now climbs back up. It's going to equalize as these cars get up to speed, but John, I think it's going to be a tradition and a storyline this season. Back out of the pits, it's going to be Randolph.
Randolph back in front with that 7-second gap. I expect that gap to stay relatively the same. You know, the advantage of leading in front is when you've got additional pace in the car, you don't have to push, and so you're going to drive a lot more safely than everybody else. So Parker Eaton's probably pushing as hard as he can to try to catch up to Sean Campbell. Sean's going to be able to save some tires here and keep those life in the tires for those last 5 or 6 laps if it becomes crucial for him. So again, he's got a big advantage at this point. So back to an alumni battle that has been brewing for some time. Derek Ekmanis has got the rear wing fixed on his Audi as he came through pit lane. So he's got a fresh car underneath him, save for the tires. He's going to try to put a move on Carl Lemkool here into the chicane. Carl's going to defend to the inside. A good move from Carl. We'll see who's the latest of the breakers here. Derek can't quite get the move done into the chicane. He's going to have to set up for turn 6 or 7 is probably his best bet, but he's got a little bit too much gap there. As it looks like Carl's pretty loose there, actually, on the inside of turn 5. So he's slow off the corner. Derek senses the opportunity, looks to the inside for turn 6, pushes St. Louis to the outside, and not a lot of grip there on the exit. St. Louis has got the position, or sorry, has enough space there, then has to tuck back in on the outside. So another great opportunistic move we saw here tonight. I'm going to make that one a cliche before the end of the night, but Derek a little bit slow actually off of 7, but not a long straight between 7 and 8. So I think he's got that one locked down, guys.
Yeah, good move there. That's the second time that Ekmanis has put that SDSU nose where it needs to be, and a little bit of courage, but he made it stick and did run a little bit wide. You can see their names on the radio on the right side of your screen. Hey, didn't mean to run that far out, but space was left. Everybody lived, and I think he earned it, guys, because Ekmanis now opening the gap as we see these two cars. That is UCLA and Luis Diaz trying to get into the chicane. 2 by 2. Will we survive? Yes, lots of room given by UCLA. Everybody makes it through. John, I'm going to say 50% defense from the 28 machine and a little bit of grace shown from the UCLA car there. Probably could have chosen Doom, but decided to live another day.
Yeah, one of the other problems with going too wide through the chicane is one of those cars is going to be offline and in the dirty part of the track where there is no grip available to you. So Sean had to run a little bit wide there in that chicane and couldn't quite get the drive off the corner and had to tuck back in underneath. As we see NC State, a student trying to put a move on Carl Lemkool. So Carl may or may not know that this is a move for position or not, but he's going to defend to the inside once more, and we'll see how much straight line speed that Porsche has if he's able to sweep down in front, and no, he is not. So the storyline of the chicane so far this race is inability to make the move into it, as I think I saw Cohen Evans spinning in the background. No, that's Sean Valandia spinning in the background. Oh no, UCLA, big damage on the front end of that car, and that was a weird place to have an issue. So did he tangle with the FIU machine on the entrance to the corner. There may have been contact between the two. We'll have to check that out once more here. So this has come through turn 3 here. And so we'll see where Luis defends. If he goes to the inside, he's going to go inside a little bit later here and then squeeze him up to the top side and through the trees. Can we just about see? No, he lost it. I must have touched the grass, guys, on the outside of the corner. The Cardinals sin for corner entry. Do not touch the grass on the outside, because that is the result that we see every time and time again. And so from a little bit different angle here, I'm sure we're going to see a bit of dust kick up here on the outside of the UCLA car. So he just about crosses over the yellow line, or sorry, white line. He just touches the edge of the grass, and that is all that it takes. Terrible to see that from Sean Valandia. Such a great race for him tonight. Hate to see it go down like that.
Yeah, and a really big impact. That's one of the parts we like about being here in the virtual world. So now we see Cohen Evans trying to get that spot back, lost it on pit road, has to get it back on track. That's going to be a battle, I think, as we see the Flames. Best seat in the house from the McLaren. That's Texas A&M you're riding on board with. Looking at those two cars, the Clemson Tigers and the Jaguars of IU, PUI. Cohen Evans going to try and get around, and that's going to be one to watch in the closing laps, Jared and John. They are going to be fighting to the end. I'll tell you who's just hanging out, though, is that one machine, Jeremy Rogers, really has a little bit of a gap back to Nicholas Daly, his nearest competition. And as we speak competition, yeah, I think that Matthew Nordberg takes a little bit of a detour. I think Nordberg's biggest mission, and might have changed now, was to get away from Embry Riddle. That's why he was trying so far to pass the car ahead. But right now, I think he's on the back foot, and it will be Embry Riddle if they're wise with defense down into this quarter. But a little bit sideways for Embry Riddle. Embry Riddle will hold it inside, and you'll see Derek Higmanis there, SDSU, as well as your Wolfpack driver, Matthew Nordberg, making it through that exchange. But yeah, just a little bit of a slip and tight defense there from Embry Riddle. A little bit of an exchange from these two drivers.
Yeah, so we'll see this again from up high. So getting nice and close there between the two cars as they head through turn 5. So we're going to see that oversteer creep his ugly head again in here on the entry. So as you come off the brake and that front end grips back up, just a touch of oversteer, manages to save it and keep it out of the wall. So well done by Alex Jensen there. Embry Riddle, Aeronautical University man, keeping it on track for the most part, but going to cost him a whole heap of time to the cars in front. So Luis Diaz also getting great avoiding action there. Just had to open up the steering wheel a little bit faster there on exit. What you don't want to do is immediately crank that steering wheel over really quickly as we see Sean Campbell get past some lap traffic. I think that was Penn College of Technology he was getting by there on that occasion. But what you don't want to do, guys, is really crank that steering wheel over to make an aggressive movement to avoid the car, especially when you've got that car loaded up there. You're probably on throttle at that stage in that particular corner. So great job by Luis Diaz to avoid that one. And so now Kyle Bonin back underneath the nose of the A&M machine. Jared, I got a question for you here in just a second. Don't know if you've got that information or not, but has Jeremy come down the pit lane already or not in this race? If not, then I need to know what happened between him and Nick Daly to put Nick Daly 6 or 7 seconds down from him.
Yep. Every single driver has completed their pit stop there, John. Jeremy Rogers on lap 23. You see lap 28 at the top left corner of your screen. So 5 laps ago, we saw the Texas A&M team here on pit lane.
All right, so that must mean that something has happened to the UTA driver, Nick Daly, dropping down. He's got a 7-second gap to this group of cars in front of him. You see him not quite there in the background. I think that was a different car, but with 10 minutes left to go in this race, can Nick Daly close that gap down and go again for the lead? He had the pace over Jeremy Rogers all race long, but then making a mistake somewhere, or if that was the mistake that he had as he entered the pit lane and was just never able to recuperate from that. I think that might be the more likely of the case. He's got Thomas Crump just behind him there in that McLaren, the number 66 car, I believe. So UTA suffering a little bit of detrimental losses there in terms of time on track at the moment, running the number 280 on the side of that UTA car. And I do know what he's referencing there. Nick Daly's got a Datsun 280Z that he has gracefully dropped a turbocharged RB26 into. That car is an absolute rocket ship now in real life. And a quick story on his, he didn't even have the weight gauge correctly configured, so he saw like 20 pounds of boost the first time he ran that car and was like, yeah, this probably should not be that quick in a straight line. So quickly changed the tune on that one for safety. But we'll see what the UTA man has in store for the rest of this race as we jump back to Jeremy Rogers, the new leader in the alumni category, still under attack from Kyle Bonin. And Cohen Evans, we said it before, guys, he is a silent assassin and quietly sitting back there behind the wing of Kyle Bonin. Will he make a move before this race is done?
I would almost bet that he would end up making a move. I am glad to see Thomas Toomey back in the running order. So whatever he had sorted, he has fixed out. But speaking of things that happened, I will note that FIU and Panther Esports Esteban Munoz just a lap ago decided to take that Porsche next to Christian Gomez alongside the wall. So looks like that Panther Esports flag will be carried on, and John carried on quite well by Luis Diaz in that 28 machine. He's doing a solid 12th place overall right now, which would be a top 10 for that car. So Luis Diaz, lots and lots of patience, perhaps, as well as skill this evening.
Yeah, definitely. Good move. I like the driving for Luis this evening. He's been driving really well this season, but has really put it on here for Watkins Glen. So a lot of improvement from that FIU team, but Shamey is the only remaining driver out of the three. So not too many team plays coming into play here tonight, but FIU still trying to work on Matthew Nordberg just in front. Can he get into that top 11 positions here in the next 7 or 8 minutes? As we had a slow, was that a Ferrari there on the outside of the last corner? No, that was a Lamborghini. That might have been Miller De Arroyo, or I can't quite catch who that might have been. The slow Lamborghini there on the outside. So no, that was the Southern New Hampshire University car. Nathaniel Wiley having some issues here tonight and having to pull into pit lane. So his race looks like it is over as well. So back to Carl Lemke. He's got NC State right underneath his rear wing as they head through turn 3. Carl's going to defend to the inside again. NC State's going to tuck underneath him and swing out wide once more to try to put the move on, but then just try to carry that speed there through the chicane if he can. Carl's a little bit slow on the bumps. Is he going to be under pressure here? He's going to look to the inside into turn 5 here and able to snatch away the position from Carl. Great move there. He knew Carl was going to be slow off the corner in the chicane there. So great opportunistic move. And that's really been another storyline that we've seen here tonight, Josh, is you got to wait for the car in front to make a mistake. And when they do, you got to make your move happen then. And guys have been doing that all night long.
That is, and that was one that I'm going to try to keep in the back of my mind. Actually, I think that St. Louis University got slowed up a little bit in the center of that bus stop, and that's when Nordberg first saw it, and then was able to capitalize on it. So 2 parts there. But yeah, now Nordberg has accomplished his goal. He's got a little bit of breathing room until that next green banner behind him. But we said Luis Diaz. There's Luis Diaz trying to keep. Now Luis is in the unique position, trying to get around that spot there. It looks like he had a little bit of looseness, maybe some rear tires. We know that AMG has a lot of horsepower. The struggle is to get it all the way down to the ground, as you can ride on board with Embry Riddle, who is trying to get around this Panther Esports machine.
Yeah, so Luis has got to have a great defense here with 5 minutes to go to hang on to that 12th position overall, which would be, I believe, 8th in the students. So that would be a top 10 finish for him. It would be great to see, as we're seeing a battle here for the second podium position. Parker Eaton and Alexander Klenk, NC State and WPI University trying to battle it out here with just probably a few laps here to go. These guys have turned up the wick here and are trying to battle it out as we head through. I think that was turn 6 there, so into 7. Alexander Klenk losing a little bit of time through that corner. Had to check out of the throttle to catch a small oversteer moment. As we see a small battle up in front of them. Actually, I think that might be for position up in front of them, but those cars should both get blue flags for this battle. I hope we don't get too much interference from them, because that could be drastic for this battle, and it looks like the Ferrari is going to very nicely give way to these guys, and that's exactly what you want to see in this series. Very polite racing there from the Ferrari man, as Alexander Klenk's tucked back up underneath the rear wing. He has closed that gap back down. He's going to have an advantage here onto the main straight. We'll see if Penn College gives the NC State man a slight advantage here. You'll be able to pick up the toe off the number 22 machine, but Penn College might be trying to pull over to actually let them by. Might have been what he's trying to do there, and he finally does there before the straight ends. But Parker Eaton wanted the toe off of him. He did not want to take that position away so easily. He wanted the toe off of him as they come through here, because he knows he's going to be under pressure here now, Josh.
Yeah, that comes with experience. You know that you want to get out of the way, but just hold your line, and the folks will go through. But going back on now, we've seen a little bit of a speed advantage here for Clank as he's going to ride on board. It looks like he will have to go to the left. It's going to be the outside of the chicane, but will he get there before the braking point? Looks like he'll back down in line. Yeah, John, we haven't seen anybody make that outside work all evening long. And back 1-2 we go, but that Worcester Polytechnic machine, I think that Clank is just taking notes and trying to figure out where he wants to make his move. Good to see Clank back up here for that WPI team. And I think that he's going to have a lot to say before we conclude this one in about 3 or 4 laps.
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to talking to, like, I only assume will be another cool, calm, and collected Alexander Clank. Never one to show a lot of emotion in the interviews, but out here on track, he is an absolute master in that Porsche. But he's got another Porsche master just in front of him. Parker Eaton loves these Porsches as well. Ran the RSR when we were running the GTE cars, and loves the 911 GT3R as well, the GT3 version of the 911. A lot of differences between the two, the RSR and the GT3R. The RSR being actually a mid-engine car, and this one being the classic rear-engined 911. But both these guys finding this car suits their driving style pretty well. I like the Porsche a lot myself. Turns pretty well, and seems to be a little bit loose, but loose is fast in my book, and these guys are putting that into practice tonight. But 2 minutes to go here, so Sean Campbell in just a couple of laps time will probably get that white flag. So the move is on here for Alexander Clank. He's got to make it happen real soon if he's going to claim that second position away from Parker Eaton. But he is making that Porsche the widest car on track and giving Alexander Clank a real struggle to make that position up. Looks like Clank had a little bit of trouble there through turn 1, maybe got upset a little bit by the bumps there on the outside. That is one of the downsides to the Porsche, not as stable over the bumps as some of the other cars like the BMW is, but NC State's still going to try to break that toe from him and maintain whatever advantage he can over Alexander Clank here in the closing stages.
Yeah, it's going to be key for those guys. And Cohen Evans still in front of Thomas Crump and actually behind Kyle Bonin, still behind Jeremy Rogers. So that battle rather set for the time being. But we stay here. As you can see, Clank, a little bit of an earlier entry into this corner, back down to the apex. As you see the Clemson machine, that's going to be the Ferrari from that group. Hanging out there, but it looks like, yeah, John, you're right, has just opened up a little bit of a gap. That 24 machine is flying. Ooh. And Parker Eaton, you can see, giving that car everything he's got, and coming down to the end of the race, really, really solid drive from Parker Eaton. You love to see it for that NC State group. So both Matthew Norberg and Parker Eaton, it's going to be a really good night, actually, for the Wolfpack.
Yeah, really good night for him. We would love to see that car up there on the podium at the minimum. I think that's just about guaranteed with Kyle Bonin just over or just under 10 seconds off of this pair at the moment. So this is the closest battle on track for position. Cohen Evans is still tucked up behind Jeremy Rogers, but we'll ignore that for now and stay with this race. White flag flies in the air for these cars crossing the line here. So this is the final lap to make this move happen for Alexander Clank, and he knows what he has to do. And we'll watch if that yellow and blue portion can get it done on this last lap here. But again, Parker Eaton just maintaining that slight advantage there. Looks like Alexander's trying to carry as much speed as he can through turn 1, and it's not going to help him, though. He's not going to get close enough through this run through the S's and up to the chicane. I think his best opportunity is probably going to be just after the chicane through that long right-hand sweeper of turn 5 and into turn 6. If he can stay with them through this chicane and through turn 5, there might be an opportunity there if Parker gets it a little bit wrong. Clank getting a great run through it, so this is his opportunity here. He's got to stay tucked up underneath and get a great drive off this corner. He's got a good drive. He's got it done here. This is going to be his opportunity if he can go to it. Parker's going to defend to the inside. Alexander is going to have to swing around the outside, but it's a tough place to make the outside moves stick there, as we see another Clemson Porsche spun off there in turn 6 and into turn 7. No move on here yet for WPI, as it looks like NC State's able to maintain that advantage just one corner more. And so just 4 corners or 4 or 5 corners between these drivers to the checkered flag here, as Sean Campbell's actually reduced that gap up there at the front. 4 seconds now between these guys, but I don't think that's going to matter too much to them. Their only focus is the guy in front or the guy behind, but it's running out of options and running out of time here for Alexander Clank. Can he get it done? I think the time is up against him now at this stage, Josh. There's not many opportunities left.
No, only a left and a right, but 3 car lengths separate these two drivers, and if they can get it right through the final corners, it will be second podium position to the 24 on your screen. That is NC State Wolfpack's driver there. And then you see Alexander Clank. So actually a little bit close at the line, but Parker Eaton, absolutely phenomenal drive. I don't know if Parker Eaton maybe meant to slow up off the final corner, but he got position too, actually separated by just over a tenth of a second. So awesome drive. You see Nicholas Daly there from the University of Texas at Arlington, and then you see Clemson coming through. Actually, see Clemson now chasing down. That is going to be San Diego State University, Derek Ekmanis, and these two drivers can amicably complete the final turn and make it down to the start-finish line. So we'll see them. Following them will be that's Tyler Crump or Thomas Crump in your BMW, and then Matthew Nordberg, another great drive right there, and then St. Louis University come in behind BYU, and that actually would be possibly for position. I'm sorry, maybe that is Valparaiso University. You're gonna have to see the side of that Lamborghini, but Luis Diaz, we talked about, awesome drive from that 28 machine for Panther Esports, and he will bring this guy around. And looks like somewhere on track, Avery Walker will again complete, finishing in the middle of the alumni. But really solid run here for Luis Diaz, Panther Esports, and bringing that car home for those guys. Got to be proud of Diaz.
Yeah, definitely proud of him, though. I do think he had a small issue on one of these last couple of laps because he was right tucked up there underneath Carl's wing just before this. But no cost to him in terms of position. Avery Walker here on your screen going to cross the line in 13th, which would be 5th for the alumni. So another good finish for Virginia here, but not a good finish for Thomas Toomey, guys. Finishing 23rd, our big championship hopes for Virginia, man, going away here this evening. So dare I say, with that finish and Sean Campbell winning his 5th race in a row, that is the championship here, I believe, in the CIL. Sean Campbell taking home his first championship. If he's won all 5 races plus a drop race, I'm trying to do the math in my head, but I think that's the championship, guys. Correct me if I'm wrong.
With the drop week, I think that is correct. That's going to be 5 weeks of P1. It's going to be hard to best that. So we'll keep that in our back pocket, and congrats to Randolph and Sean Campbell, their stellar drive and season. But you see Texas A&M, Cohen Evans there, everybody on their cool down lap, picking up those marbles as these guys come in and towel off. And then we will provide some interviews after this finishing grid.
Yeah, so your top 10 results just really quickly here. So Sean Campbell taking home his 5th win here of the season by a gap of 4.3 seconds behind Parker Eaton, NC State, joining us again here tonight. Great to see the NC State machine claim another podium for that team. And then Alexander Clank couldn't quite get it done there for WPI, but does pick up that final podium position, just a 10th or so separating Parker Eaton and Clank there at the end. So really close there. And then Kyle Bonin, a good finish for Clemson University. Great to see those guys up there, but 14 seconds off the lead here. He'll come home in 4th position. Jeremy Rogers takes home another win for the alumni category for that Texas A&M car. And then Cohen Evans finishing 6th overall, 5th in the student category for IUPUI. So another top 5 finish for Cohen Evans, Jared. I think we've seen that a number of times before. Cohen just able to consistently get into those top 5 positions. And then Nick Daly coming home 2nd place once more, again matching his position from 2 weeks ago at Road Atlanta for UT Arlington. Derek Ekmanis is going to be that final podium position for the alumni for San Diego State. And then Thomas Crump in 9th, another Clemson man making his way into the top 10. And then Matthew Norberg for NC State is going to finish 10th overall, 52 seconds off the lead. And it looks like Sean Campbell lapped almost every car except for about the top 14 cars or so. What a drive from the Randolph man.
Yeah, really calm drive, and got to say he controlled the race for just about the whole time, from start to finish. And I wondered if a couple guys would give him pause up at the beginning, but just wasn't in the card, and great win. But joining us is NC State Wolfpack's now Parker Eaton.
Parker, this is all the guys up in the booth. You got a copy? Parker, it's Jarrett, John, and Josh up in the booth. You got a copy?
Hey, what's up, Jared?
There we go. So
Hey.
we witnessed quite a battle between you and Alex Clank there at the end. Walk us through those last couple laps and just how tough it is to eyes forward and not have to worry about that car behind you.
Yeah, I mean, I do some mirror driving a lot, and for some reason I haven't yet gotten to grips with the GT3 cars. I'm just starting to feel a bit better with them. But the Porsche was on ice, and I just knew I had to carry speed through the back half of the track and into turn one and on that back straight, because Clank would have a little bit of a draft if I wasn't careful. For some reason, I could not handle the bus stop tonight. There was a really nasty bump in the second apex that just threw this car around. So had a lot of trouble there, a few off courses, but kept it on the track, out of the wall, and feels good to be back on a podium in a Porsche. So very happy about that.
Wow, congratulations. First of all, awesome run. And yeah, walk us through maybe the first third, because we started off and you made your way around Toomey, sights set on the leader. And what was your thought process? Were you not interested in saving fuel? Were you just trying to get a move on at the beginning of the race?
Yeah, I was just trying to mainly keep up with the and stay in the top three, kind of get a draft with Toomey, following Sean. I knew I couldn't catch Sean. No one can catch Sean. So I just tried to wanted to pull away from the rest of the field because I saw they were pretty tight. And for the most part, it worked. But that car was tough to drive today. So just really stoked to get second. So best of the rest. And excited for the final round coming up at Spa.
Yeah, I think we're excited for it too. But man, I can't tell if you're lying to me or not. If you're saying that you don't quite have the GT3 cars figured out yet, that was a pretty strong performance from you, man, both in qualifying and the race. So it looked like the car was getting a little bit loose there at the end. You mentioned it was on ice. So was it front end grip or rear end grip that you were really struggling with?
It was rear. It couldn't take any more than like 50% throttle mid corner, or else as soon as it broke into traction control, that corner was done. I'd lose a couple tenths to Clank. So had a lot of issues down there in the boot at that carousel and through the bus stop. But as long as I didn't get into TC, it stayed hooked up pretty well.
Gotcha. Well, another podium for the NC State machine and team as well. A great run there for you tonight. So any shout outs that you want to hand out there before we send you on your way?
Nah, just shout out to you guys. This is a lot of fun to do. It's awesome that there's some other NC State guys here, and happy to represent the Wolfpack.
Absolutely, man. Well, great drive out there tonight. Congratulations on P2, and we'll talk to you again soon.
All right, thanks. See ya.
So it's Parker Eaton right there coming away second place here tonight. And what a drive for him. You guys said it, just cool, calm, and collected. And I think for Parker, at times we've seen him be inconsistent. So it's really cool to see him just lay down those consistent laps, especially with a guy like Alexander Clank on his tail, John.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wanted to bring this up during the race, but there was just too much action. One of my favorite things watching, not only throughout the season, but throughout the multiple seasons that we've had so far, is the improvement of the drivers over time. Guys like Luis Diaz and Parker Eaton. We saw Parker really fast at the start of the league, but always had those inconsistent issues. And he had none of that here tonight, which enabled him to claim that final podium position. Or sorry, second podium position, rather.
So next in the booth, we're going to bring Alexander Clank, who's trying to chase down Parker Eaton all night long for the WPI team. And Mr. Clank, it was a great run you had there at the end. And we talked to Parker just a second ago, and he was talking about corner exit and how tough that was, especially in the bus stop. Did you have a similar experience tonight?
Yeah, I mean, the bus stop is such a interesting corner because you watch someone in front of you and whoever it is, they're doing it slightly differently from how you are. So, my car, I wasn't having a lot of corner exit trouble. I was in the mid high speed, especially the second to last corner. It was a bit sketchy at the end. But overall, the car was quite good, I would say.
Gotcha. Hey, Alex, John up here in the booth. Was there a part on the track where you felt that you were faster than that NC State machine? I think I was watching you on that last lap and saying that if you could stay in touch with them through turn 5, there might be an opportunity through turn 6. Were those your key points that you were trying to focus on to stay close underneath the wing of that car to get that move done?
Yeah, I think I was definitely faster than him through the bus stop. Um, the rest of the track, it was, I would say, pretty even. and it's very hard to make a pass at this track. So I think the real primary opportunity is into the bus stop if you can get a really good run out of turn one. But I mean, he did a good job, just holding me off, keeping the gap so that I wasn't able to get a run on him.
Yeah, yeah, really hard fought and very good masterclass to watch between the way a battle can shape out, between two very skilled drivers. Walk us through your events leading up to this race. How did you set up the Porsche? Did you spend a lot of time setting up the Porsche? And we saw a couple times maybe trying to figure out which car would give you the least headache around this Watkins Glen International Raceway. Yeah, how did you choose the car selection process, and what changes did you make to get it to work for you?
Yeah, I'm the way the GT3 cars are right now in iRacing, I don't think any of them are really my ideal car. So I tried actually, I think at least three cars just, for a couple laps at least around this track just to get a feel for them. I decided to run the Porsche again just because I have been most of the season, and I just want to, learn it more. And I think today was definitely sort of my best day with the car so far. Definitely getting on top of it more. Um, I would say the main improvement for the car that I felt from this race compared to other races was um, just the high speed sort of over rotation that there was frequently. I did mention, it could still get a little sketchy, but it was much better than previously. So that was to good to have.
All right. Well, great to hear, and always great to talk to you up in the booth, Alex Clank. So, who do you want to give a shout out to before we send you on your way?
Well, I gotta give a shout out to Parker, of course, for a great battle. That was really fun. I wish it was the other way around at the finish line, though. But thanks to you guys, of course. Thanks to everyone for coming out. Um, yeah, thanks to the InnoVetted Labs for sponsoring and helping us run this great series.
All right. Well, Alex, always great talking to you. Enjoy your night, and I'm sure we're going to talk to you again soon.
See you guys.
So, Alex Clank joining us right there. And John mentioned it, cool, calm, and collected. And once again, you hear it, not too high, not too low. And that's how he's able to just keep getting these consistently very good finishes. And I imagine when we eventually talk to Cohen Evans, it'll be a lot of the same from Mr. Evans there from IUPUI. John?
Yeah, but I think we got our first time joke out of Alexander Clank there at the end. So I was happy to hear that from him. But yeah, Clank has been a master in the Porsche for a long time. So I'm not surprised at all that he chose that car as his weapon of choice here tonight. But bringing you your final standings here by InnoVetted Labs on your screen here. Sean Campbell taking home the win for Randolph Community College, as well as the overall championship, 5 wins in a row and plus a drop week. So whatever his worst finish is will not matter from this point forward. And so he could finish last next week and it would not, in 2 weeks time, and it would not matter. So great job done by Sean Campbell here tonight to wrap that up. Parker Eaton coming home second place for NC State, making a number of their appearance here on the podium. Alexander Clank for WPI, who we just talked to, coming home third. Kyle Bonin in fourth for Clemson University, a good finish for the Clemson team. Then Jeremy Rogers, our winner in the alumni category tonight for Texas A&M, coming home fifth overall. Cohen Evans in sixth for IUPUI. And then Nick Daly having a few struggles throughout the night, going to come home second in the alumni and seventh overall for UT Arlington. Derek Ekmanis in eighth, the final podium position in the alumni category for San Diego State. And then Thomas Crump in ninth, another Clemson driver. And then wrapping up that top 10 is going to be Matthew Nordberg for NC State in 10th.
Carl Lemkuhl from St. Louis University finishes in 11th here tonight. Luis Diaz from FIU turns out a good finish for the Panther Esports team in 12th. Avery Walker from the University of Virginia comes away 13th here tonight. In 14th is Alex Jensen from Embry-Riddle. Good race for him. A couple door-to-door battles that he's able to survive and come away 14th overall. Hagan Johnson from Clemson University finishes 15th very quietly. Austin DeLong from the Penn College of Technology, 1 lap down, finishing in 16th. Dan Banner from St. Clair College finishing in 17th here tonight. Nevin Puckett from Ball State University, mentioned him a couple times over the course of the night. He finishes in 18th. Andrew Williams, another Clemson University driver, in 19th. And rounding out your top 20 is Ricky Paz from Valparaiso University.
And Clemson University is going to put a couple drivers, Nicholas Stockner, Andrew Burrell, in 21 and 22. 23 going to Thomas Toomey from Virginia. The Cavaliers not having the night they wanted there, with a couple failures. And then BYU's Miller De Arroyo is going to bring you that 24th position. And then UCLA and Sean Valandia, they're able to get that Porsche repaired, finish it out 4 laps behind the leader. And then you can see there Nathaniel Wiley from Southern New Hampshire University. The rest of the students already headed back to the library after taking their cars behind the garage. Going to be Esteban Munoz from FIU, Scott Ratliff, Pittsburgh State, Robert Morris's Nick Patinella, as well as FIU's Christian Gomez, we mentioned, and Clemson University's Justin Roberts, who didn't quite make it past that lap 2 excursion there. So, guys, that is the full running order, and a couple of surprises there, namely that Virginia machine probably was not on my bingo card for this evening's event.
Yeah, I'd agree. Very surprised to see Thomas, but I think that we have confirmed they just had some equipment failures of some kind here this evening. And just like in real life, where you can have car failures, has been happened to me before, and it's happened to other guys plenty of times. You can have it in sim racing too, guys. And unfortunate to see, but and generally these sim rigs are pretty reliable, but occasionally you get the random glitch that can put you into the wall or send you into a spin. And Thomas, unfortunately, I think the recipient of that tonight. But guys, what I am really happy to see is Parker Eaton up on the podium again. It's been a while for the NC State machine and team to have another podium, and I really enjoyed seeing him battle it out with Alexander Clank. It felt like we were watching the GTE cars from a couple seasons ago with those two guys battling all night long. But Jared, that was my big takeaway from this race, was watching those two guys battle. How about for you, man?
Yeah, and I mean, it's always so fun with these GT3 cars. It seems like we have these close-knit battles, and it's not necessarily a big pack race like you might see at a NASCAR Talladega, but it's trains of 3-4 cars. We saw Jeremy Rogers, Cohen Evans, Nick Daly mix it up for what felt like forever. Kyle Bonin jumped in there as well, and it's the cool racing you get in these GT3 cars, that you get that close-knit racing. We saw guys bang doors a couple times, and the cars can handle it. And that's what makes it so much fun to see, is guys putting it wheel to wheel, able to know that, hey, the guy's on my outside, I know how he races, and succeeding or giving. And we saw that all night long here tonight. But another surprise for me, before I turn this over to you, Josh, is how many guys we saw, those big names, finish down in the finishing order. Thomas Toomey, you already mentioned, but Sean Valendia as well, Christian Gomez, guys who are pretty well versed here in the iRacing circuit, just having tough nights here, Josh.
Yeah, I think that goes back to what we said at the top of the broadcast, that we have a track that everyone is pretty familiar with and everybody wants to put their best performance on. And in doing so, sometimes you go over the line just a little bit too much. And Sean Valandia is a good example of running close together. It only takes one bit of grass to get off sideways there. And more so, especially at Watkins Glen, I think it is a testament that there's a lot of cars close together. Drivers very familiar with their opponents and this racetrack, and so you are going to get a lot of close battles, and they can result in the surprises we see, whether it be an actual DNF or an excursion, or just a driver. Even before Toomey had the mechanical bits there, dropping back to 4th. Something like that was not so expected. So that's something to watch with these guys.
So as we wrap this one up from Watkins Glen, we look forward to next week's time. We head back to the oval side at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and then in 2 weeks' time, we head out there to Spa. And like we mentioned, Sean Campbell's already got this thing wrapped up, so We'll see if he turns out to Spa and lays down some blistering laps, as I'm sure we would expect. But guys, as we think forward to that, we start thinking of Thomas Toomey there in second. Now he's got a little battle to work back toward that second position, finished 23rd here tonight. And it's going to be a good points finish for the rest of the way through the field, John.
Yeah, absolutely. So while the top championship spot might be wrapped up, just like you said, the second position and down are not finalized yet. So guys still have to finish up those positions and put everything on the line in 2 weeks at Spa. And I think it's the first time back at Spa since the pilot season, the very first race of the CIL. So it's been a long awaited return, over a year now since that race first took place. So gonna be, I'll be pretty nostalgic, I think, actually, when we go back there. I'm looking forward to seeing that race. Produces some great racing as well. That track, and it's a very awesome challenge in these types of cars as well. So Josh, I know I'm looking forward to that as well. But we've also got the oval side coming up next week at Indianapolis. That's another one to look forward to.
Going to Roger Penske's new playground. Indianapolis is a little over 2 miles of very straight, narrow track and 4 corners stitched in between. So going to be fun there, and a really tight battle between UNC Charlotte and the University of Tennessee. A couple of East Coast groups trying to take the battle, I think separated by 3 or 4 points in the standings. So going to be very close there, and one that we're going to keep our eye on. I'm looking forward to that one as well.
Yeah, so if you want to join us for that in 1 week's time, same place, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time next week, we'll be bringing you the racing action from Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So for one last time, for all of us up here in the booth and all of us out on the track, and we cannot forget everyone behind the scenes that makes this all run, including our sponsor, InnoVetted Labs, and our race stewards as well, keeping us all safe on track. Thank you all for joining us, and we hope to see you again soon.